In tonight's programme we have a special report on women's safety which highlights the dangers to all students in the city, and a look at a day in the life of a disabled student at the University of Bradford, looking at the facilities available. We also feature a rather disturbing incident about the disappearance of animals within the region.
Armed robber and ram raider Biff Haggathwaite was today beginning a 6-year prison sentence after going on a crime spree throughout West Yorkshire. Haggathwaite of Bradford Moor admitted at Leeds Crown Court 3 robberies, 2 burglaries and 4 offences of taking cars without consent. The most recent of the offences took place in March of this year when Haggathwaite ram-raided a fashion shop at Rawdon using a stolen car, causing damage of more than £12,000. He got away in a second stolen car which was spotted by police being driven by Haggathwaite in the Horsforth area. They gave chase, but he drove at speeds of up to 150 miles an hour before writing the vehicle off in a crash near Kirkstall Abbey and escaping on foot. Officers followed a trail of blood to a nearby off-licence where they discovered the owner bound and gagged behind the counter. Haggathwaite had stolen £800 from the till and telephoned for a taxi home. In mitigation, Haggathwaite's barrister had claimed that his client had suffered a trauma following the breakup of his marriage and had been drinking heavily on the evening of the offence. Judge James Saville QC told him this sort of behaviour was quite inexcusable. It must be made clear to him and others who engage in such conduct that they will receive substantial sentences.
2 men have been remanded in custody by Lincoln magistrates, charged with the manslaughter of 17-year-old Stephen Hume. The teenager from the Upton area died on Friday night after an incident outside a public house in the city.
Safety within Bradford has always been an overriding social issue concerning the public. Even more so today, women are more vulnerable to personal attacks of violence. Recent fears for the safety of women have arose due to lack of security. One such location was that of Bradford University, recently subjected to a spate of violent attacks.
Violent attacks, rapes and muggings used to be a thing only read about in newspapers. However, this social disease has become all too real within the city of Bradford. Over the past few years, there has been an increase in the number of reported incidents concerning women. Although extensive inquiries have been carried out, there have been few convictions, leaving a question mark over the safety of women in Bradford. How do you feel about women's safety in Bradford?
I definitely think more needs to be done. Lighting, especially around campus, is not good enough. Security in halls. I mean, I'm on placement at the moment, but I'm just back for the weekend, and I heard about this attack on a student last week. Is that right? Someone was raped or something near Pickwicks, and I don't know. It happens every year, doesn't it? I think definitely something's got to be done. Security on the doors, especially Dennis and Rivers. Anybody could get in. And
well, from what I've learnt about, what's been happening around the campus, I don't feel very safe actually, because especially when it gets dark,
And I certainly don't feel very happy about walking around on my own at night, and I wouldn't do it.
In safety in Bradford?
Well, there's obviously a lot of problems about it. I read the Telegraph and Argus assiduously, and there are quite a number of reports of which give rise to concern.
Well, I think that it's everybody's responsibility, male and female. I think that every male at the university has a duty to at least walk female friends of theirs home, and always be aware of the situation in Bradford.
Bradford's residents have never felt more afraid than 15 years ago when Peter Sutcliffe, the infamous Yorkshire Ripper, was at large. From the day Sutcliffe attacked his first victim, Anna Ogluskey, on July the 5th, 1975, women of Yorkshire have been on their guard. They were warned not to walk alone and to be aware of any suspicious strangers. These unprovoked, gruesome attacks shocked the nation. For the 4 years the crime remained unsolved. Barbara Leach, a student at the university, became the Ripper's 12th victim when walking home from her local pub, the Manville Arms. As Barbara walked towards her flat in Grove Terrace, she was dragged by Sutcliffe towards Backash Grove, where her body was later left mutilated and covered by a piece of carpet. A purple sycamore tree was planted near the university on Shearbridge Green as a memorial to the dead girl. However, the women of the university were terrified as the Ripper's actions were brought onto their doorstep. They called for tighter security within and around the campus to prevent another such attack and make their lives as normal as possible. However, the damage was done. The murders had shocked the student population, resulting in a reduction in the number of applications by women for places at Bradford and neighbouring universities. Luckily, the nightmare ended on the 24th of May 1981, when Sutcliffe was eventually caught and later sentenced to life imprisonment for the crimes he had committed. A memorial plaque to Barbara Leach can be found in Shearbridge Green. It serves as a powerful reminder of the dangers which faced women students in Bradford. Police have urged members of the public to be on the lookout for a 35-year-old Giggleswick man who is thought to have instigated a series of gun attacks. On Friday of last week, William Henry Guinea left the farm in Skipton where he was employed, taking with him a shotgun and ammunition belonging to his employer. The gun is believed to have been used in 3 shooting incidents during the ensuing period. Mr. Guinea's workmates have described how he was subject to mood swings following the death of his son and the subsequent departure of his common law wife. These bouts of depression culminated in a series of drunken brawls. The police have described Guinea as being highly strung and unpredictable. At a press conference held in Skipton today, Inspector Edward Marsh stressed that individuals recognising Guinea should on no account approach him, and that they should contact their nearest police station without delay. He went on to give brief details of the shooting incidents in which 3 cars had been pierced with bullets. All those involved had escaped injury, but following the latest incident, a man fitting Guinea's description was seen running across fields. Inspector Marsh repeated his belief that Guinea is an unstable and dangerous man.
An 8-year-old boy has died after being struck by a car on the M621 motorway in Leeds. Michael Smith was knocked over as he crossed the carriageway with friends. His death brings to 16 the number of children killed or seriously injured on this section of the motorway in the past 7 years, and has raised fears that further incidents will happen if improvements to perimeter fencing are not carried out. Inspector Percy Habgood of the Leeds Accident Prevention Unit claims that the existing fencing is perfectly adequate and that the fault lies with many parents' lack of supervision of their children near this busy stretch of road.
The government today announced the setting up of a select committee to look into the current level of speed restrictions on British motorways. The announcement follows mounting pressure from motorway user groups to have the current 70 miles per hour maximum speed to be increased to 80. Professor Adrian Grudge from the Institute of Advanced Accidents commented that the existing limits are based on vehicle design of 20 years ago. They take no account of improvements in vehicle safety, advanced braking systems and improved road design. However, a spokesperson from the West Yorkshire Police sounded a more cautious note when he stressed that the cause of the majority of accidents was still driver error. An increase in speed will simply reduce that margin for error, thus increasing the daily carnage on our roads, he said. The police view is that accident figures could be reduced by the introduction of much stiffer penalties, including imprisonment for a whole range of motoring offences, such as driving too close to the vehicle in front, driving too fast in fog, and parking on double yellow lines. The Select Committee is expected to publish its recommendations early next year.
Police in West Yorkshire have announced plans to fit cars from their traffic division with specially adapted video cameras. The cameras are to be suspended at eye level in unmarked police vehicles, and it is hoped that the new system of traffic surveillance will be fully operational by early next month. The move follows similar initiatives in East London and parts of the Midlands. A spokesman for the West Yorkshire Transport Division rejected claims that the onboard camera cars marked another example of the force's use of Big Brother tactics. He said that, while the instant replays would be used as evidence of driving misdemeanours, they could also serve as educational tools, highlighting motorists' strengths as well as weaknesses. A demonstration of the camera car's capabilities is to be held this weekend at the Traffic Department on Watchet Row, Leeds. Members of local motoring organisations and representatives from the press are expected to be in attendance.
Sir Christopher Fox, Bradford Council's outspoken senior executive, is in the news again. In a bid to help solve the city's critical parking problems, he unveiled plans last night to introduce parking meters on all off-street parking in the city. Sir Christopher Fox went on to explain that the high cost of implementing the scheme has always proved a stumbling block in the past, but that he proposed to overcome this problem by selling advertising space on the meters themselves. In a deal rumoured to be worth several £1,000s, Virgin Supremo Richard Branson has bought the advertising space on all the proposed meters, fueling speculation that Bradford may soon be erecting parking meters sporting adverts for condoms. However, officials from the council's high-res department today described the suggestion as inconceivable.
Following on from the subject of traffic problems within Bradford, the city has recently opened a huge multi-storey car park complex in the city centre. However, the new development has met with mixed success amongst car owners. Again, we set our intrepid reporters to find out why the car park hasn't been fully utilised, and further asked members of the public what they thought.
Throughout the country, many modern cities are facing the difficulties of overcrowded roads and traffic jams, but the most overwhelming problem is the availability of car parking spaces. Here, in Bradford, this situation has reached its peak. Over the last 5 years, the number of cars has risen considerably, whilst the number of car parks has stayed relatively the same. Quite simply, the motorist has outgrown the official pay and display car parks provided by. As competition for spaces becomes more fierce and intense, owners are driven to extraordinary lengths to ensure that they acquire an official parking spot. Most people prefer to leave home extra early in the morning, while others seek alternative parking, usually in the numerous narrow side streets. Parking in these areas only adds to the problems, causing parked cars to be scraped, impeding access and attracting thieves. It is understandable then that some drivers are so frustrated that they leave their cars anyway, the consequences of which are expensive, resulting in damaged vehicles, wheel clamps or parking fines. Situated behind me is part of the solution to this problem. It is the new interchange car park on Britannia Street behind the bus station. It was opened to bring in money for the region's Transport Authority and, more importantly, ease Bradford's parking crisis. National Car Parks is the organisation which is leasing the interchange bus station from West Yorkshire Passenger Transport Executive, and they blame Bradford Council for the lack of business. The council has refused the company permission to display signs directing drivers to the car park because, under present law, private firms are not allowed to put up their own signs on the highway. Earlier, Barry Hutchinson, the National Car Parks Unit Manager for Bradford, was quoted as saying, "We knew Bradford was crying out for car parking spaces, but now, having gone ahead with this scheme, nobody's using the facility. It is ridiculous." The car park attendant, Aslan Kapoli, probably has the most boring job in Bradford, spending most of his 40-hour week sitting in his cabin doing crosswords. Since he assumed custodianship of the job 8 weeks ago, business hasn't improved, the most money collected in 1 week being £55. Mr. Kapoli declined an interview because of his manager's objections. Have you heard about the new interchange car park?
No, I haven't.
Have you heard about the new interchange car park?
Yes, I have.
Yes. I read about it in the Telegraph and Argus, but it's far too expensive, because I park all day.
According to a council highway spokesman, a scheme to put up signs is being prepared, hopefully enabling the facility to finally fulfil its true potential.
A West Yorkshire building material group has announced profits up by a quarter, going against the trend which has seen most other similar companies in recession. Spring Ram's half-year pre-tax profits stand at £16 million. That's an increase of £4 million. The company, which is based in Birstall near Leeds, specialises in fittings for kitchens and bathrooms. It's become unique in the home improvements trade by continuing to increase profits. The company has grown into a global business with operations in Europe and the United States.
York newspaper publishers, the Hutton Press, began the first phase of their wind-down operation this morning, only days after the announcement that they were to hand over their business to the Murdoch Group. Removal men and staff from the Press Sister Group in Hull began shifting files and furniture from the city centre offices at around 9:30 today. The bulk of this material, together with 2/3 of the group's editorial personnel, will be relocated in the Humberside office, but many more jobs are to go. Over 100 job losses are expected by the spring, leading up to the final phase in mid-1992, when all Hutton Press publications will pass over to the new owners. Management staff told unions on Thursday, November the 23rd, that it would honour the House agreement which entitles staff to 4 weeks pay for each year of service. The 350-strong staff have been assured that they can expect the full benefits of the company's redundancy support programme, including the production of a skills directory to aid workers in their search for new employment. Promises on redundancy and pension payments are to be honoured, alongside plans to offer counselling and training.
20 small and medium-sized firms in the region who have had little or no experience of exporting into Europe are to be targeted for advice on breaking into the continental markets. The business information broker, Julie McFarland, announced the plan for the Business into Europe initiative at a joint meeting between Kirklees and Wakefield Chamber of Commerce in Calderdale in Kirklees Trade Executive, which was held in the Chamber's Huddersfield office this afternoon. Miss McFarland's European Business and Information Consultancy will be expanding their Pennines-based operation to provide the selected companies with full information service. The consultancy's database on European businesses who are involved in import and export is designed to help local businessmen find prospective partners and the appropriate joint venture deals. Under the initiative, a team of top analysts are to be on hand to provide up-to-the-minute information on the foreign and domestic policies of European countries, and a legal team will be able to offer advice on all aspects of trading on the continent. Ms McFarland stressed that the emphasis would be on action as opposed to theory, and that the firms involved would expect to be working alongside like-minded business people with the common goal of gaining a sure foothold in Europe.
A neglected and run-down part of a Victorian cemetery is set to become a haven for wildlife. Derelict greenhouses and outbuildings are to be cleared from the site in Utley Cemetery near the centre of Keighley, and meadow grass and wildflower seeds sown. A council spokesman said, "The area is an eyesore and we intend to tidy it up with the help of local schools and plant shrubs and saplings." The move follows pressure from local conservation groups as well, who claim that the area also attracts a lot of wildlife, including squirrels and a variety of birds including goldfinch, bittern and albatross.
The University of Bradford has proved increasingly popular over recent years, with student numbers rising from approximately 3,000 at the beginning of the 1980s to an expected intake in excess of 5,000 for the 1991 and 1992 term. We sent along a reporter to find out exactly what Bradford University has to offer.
The University of Bradford is home to more than 5,000 students from all over the world. Its wide range of courses, sports and leisure facilities and its friendly atmosphere attract students of all ages. So what does make student life in Bradford so interesting? This is the Communal Building, otherwise known as the Commie, the home of the infamous Friday night discos, or FNDs. The definite highlight of the Students' Week. Tickets sell out within hours of going on sale on Tuesday afternoons, and those unfortunate enough to miss out have to join a massive queue on the Friday night, hoping to be one of the 100 people let in on the door. The Main Line is the most popular bar on the university campus and is always packed with students. On a Friday night it is full of people waiting to go into the FND because it is situated so near to the Commie. The Beco Bar on the second floor of the Richmond building is much quieter but sells a variety of real ales and is the only student bar to be mentioned in the Good Beer Guide. Another important part of student life is the university accommodation. All the halls on campus are self-catering, and the catered halls, Revis Barber and Dennis Bellamy, can be found along Lacebridge Lane, just 2 minutes walk from the university. Bradford is also a city famous for its curry houses, many of which are situated on Great Horton Road alongside the university. Every Friday night they're packed with students looking for a cheap meal after the FND, and it is interesting to note that there are more curry houses per head of population in Bradford than anywhere else in the UK. No matter what your age, race and background are, Bradford is a university for everybody.
Furthering the subject of student life, we have tonight a live interview discussing the often forgotten side of academic life. Here then is Matthew Sayers.
I'm joined by Damien Hale, a first-year student on one of the university's most exciting new courses, Electronic Imaging and Media Communication. That's quite a mouthful. What's it all about?
Well, basically we study the media and the practical skills and technical knowledge behind it.
So it's like a combination of both the arts and the sciences?
Yeah.
Is this what initially attracted you to the course?
Well, I studied a mixture of art and science in school, so it seemed like a natural choice.
Sounds like a lot of subjects are covered. Presumably there's scope for specialisation later on in the course.
Yeah, well, my main interest is on the artistic side of film and photography, but some made changes were introduced to new areas of the media.
And how are all these different subjects taught?
We took 4 modules a term, we change every 10 weeks. This stops it becoming boring, but it can also get confusing because we're learning engineering 1 minute and then photography.
You must require a lot of facilities to put all this learning into practice, particularly on the production side of things. How well does the university provide you in this area?
Well, we're lucky in Bradford because we've got the National Museum of Photography, Film and TV. It's got many useful resources, 2 cinemas and a TV studio. But we also use the college and university.
Is that where all the academic subjects are taught?
Well, we use the college for photography and video, and the university teaches us about computing and the science aspect.
The media is probably one of the most rapidly expanding industries at the moment. What do you see yourself doing after you've graduated?
Well, I'm not sure, but one of the good points of the course is that it covers a wide range of possibilities.
Well, we wish you the best of luck and thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
Next, our regular look at up-and-coming artistic talent in West Yorkshire. This week, we take a look at a promising new local band. The Quentons, who are based in Bradford and Leeds universities, allowed us into the studio as they rehearsed their live material for an up-and-coming gig. And
Bradford has given rise to a number of successful bands in the past, such as the Cult, New Model Army and Unique 3. New bands are constantly on the rise and are undoubtedly helped on their way by the student population. One such group are the Quentons, a 4-piece with roots in Ashford in Kent. Consisting of students from Bradford and Leeds universities, they are finally looking set for media acknowledgement after a disappointing and unfortunate past, with Carter and Voice of the Beehive support slots falling through. We caught up with the band while rehearsing in Leeds. Adam, how did the Quentons form?
In a pub, actually. Started about 2.5, 3 years ago. My drummer called Neil. He was, at the time, I think he'd just been having a bit of a rough night or something, and then Carl came up to him, offered, said, oh yeah, well Neil, we should get together, start a band. And I went there, and then they asked me to play. So I did.
What are your musical influences?
Guns, got to say him. Smiths, Paddy's guitaring, he's ace. That was a joke, by the way. Yeah, Smiths, Buzzcocks, Cud. There you go, got that one in.
What are your plans for the Quentons' future?
Hopefully we might have a single. We've already done a flexi. Hopefully we'll have a single out at some point, produced by a guy from the Beckett's. Bad Girl Records, but you can tell. Gotta wait and see.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Look out for the Quentons playing at a venue near you soon.
Youngsters shattered the peace at a Dale's beauty spot when they held an illegal party in the grounds of a famous country estate. In the early hours of last night, huge convoys of cars converged on the Duke of Devonshire's estate at Bolton Abbey, a popular tourist spot from as far afield as Lancashire, Halifax and Ilkley. About 400 teenagers danced for half an hour to music blasting from giant speakers which they had set up on the grassy bank of the River Wharf. The party was broken up by just 3 police officers from Skipton. Inspector Alan Over, who led the team, said, "There was no problems, no drugs, no violence. They just packed up and went when they were asked." He said police had turned away scores of other vehicles before they entered the estate.
As we come towards the end of the first university term, most students have settled into their new independent lives. Darren Christian is like any other first-year student. However, he has the added disadvantage of a wheelchair. We sent our reporter, Chris Wilson, out to find out more.
At university is generally considered to be one of the most formative periods in the lives of all students. For many people it provides the first taste of independence and of managing to balance time spent studying their chosen subjects with completing those domestic chores. This in itself is a tall order for many students, especially when compounded by the addition of a wheelchair. Darren Christian is one of many disabled students at Bradford who has taken up the challenge by pursuing a business studies degree. We decided that by looking at his case specifically, we would gain an insight into the difficulties faced by him that the majority of us are fortunate enough not to have to worry about. Would you like to briefly explain the nature of your disability?
Yeah, I've got a heart condition I've had it from birth. It's called truncus scientific name. But anyway, in short, it's a heart condition that means I can actually walk and get about, but I get exhausted extremely quickly because my blood's pumped all wrong. So,
what are your main problems around the campus and at the management centre?
Management centre at the moment is quite bad access to lectures and to the computers there, but I can get in the library. They've been very good with the library. They've got it sorted out very quickly, and I can get to my tutorials, but when I go to lectures I have to be lifted into the lecture theatre and lifted up to the computer rooms, which isn't adequate really, but it's being sorted, so I hear.
Right. What sort of activities is there for sport and recreation?
Well, me personally, I've joined the fencing group, and I'm also in the drama group. I've only just started fencing, so I'm not that good.
How do Bradford's facilities compare with other universities?
Other universities, I've been to Essex, and Essex is very good, but it's out of town. So it's a long way into, I think it's Colchester. And it's not as friendly as Bradford. It's the first thing that hit me when I got here, how friendly it was. I've seen Nottingham Polytechnic, and I was going around with some students on the open day, and the last I saw them was when they disappeared up some stairs, and I thought, oh well, I'm going home now. I couldn't cope with that. Yeah, Bradford's got the best course as well, so go there.
So what improvements can be made here to make life a bit easier?
You could have drop curbs, ramp raising the curbs, so that's inside and outside the campus. Those things are okay. I just have to go around in back exits to a lot of places through the fire exits, and I just want to make Bradford unit more accessible for future potential disabled students.
Thank you very much. It seems to over the past few years general awareness has risen to the needless problems imposed on the disabled by our environment, and that at least now most new buildings are designed with this in mind. It is obviously easier to build in ramps and plan access in the initial stages, rather than attempt messy alterations at a later date. Although Bradford seems relatively well equipped, there are still a fair amount of problems, and while studies necessitate being in older buildings, Darren will be forced to put up with the inconvenience.
The Princess of Wales was in Yorkshire today for the second time this month. The Princess was visiting the Miriam Westbourne Cancer Hospital for Children in Darley. She was in attendance for the acceptance of a Ford Escort cabriolet, which was presented to the hospital's charity fund, of which she is a patron. Princess Diana made her latest visit to the region this morning, without her husband Prince Charles. She spent roughly 2 hours at the ceremony, where she delivered an acceptance speech and called at the bedsides of a number of young patients who were too ill to come outside. The Princess gave a warm welcome to the donation of the car, and before flying on to another engagement in the Peak District, presented and outlined the charity's intention to auction the vehicle early in the new year.
A mother's search for the daughter she put up for adoption 27 years ago has finally ended, on the other side of the world. Elaine Harrison was parted from her youngest child, Helen, when she was just 6 weeks old. Now Mrs. Harrison of World's End in Eden is overjoyed after tracing her daughter, now married with 3 children of her own, happily living in New Zealand. Helen made contact with her mum after reading an article written by Mrs. Harrison in a magazine, and now plans a visit to meet her mother. Now plans a visit to meet the mother she never knew she had.
A report published today argues that women should be permitted to compete against men in top sporting events. In the report, which has been backed by the Equal Opportunities Commission, Harrogate barrister Andrew Winner claims that the present law makes sportswomen the victims of sex discrimination and should be changed to allow women to take part in the most prestigious events. Mr Winner is convinced that the present sex discrimination law is the only obstacle preventing many sportswomen from competing at the highest levels, and he used his speech at the Sport for All conference in Huddersfield to reiterate the views outlined in his report, saying that while discrimination is now illegal in employment, education and consumer services, it is still permissible in sport. However, Mr Winner was not in favour of dropping the ban on men entering women's competitions, as, he said, this might have a detrimental effect on existing sporting opportunities for women.
A top Belgian rally driver has been arrested in connection with alleged motoring offences near Harrogate. Francis Morga, who is lying fifth in the Lombard RAC rally, is thought to have been pulled up for allegedly crossing white lines. He was arrested by North Yorkshire Police at 12:25 p.m. today on the A61 between Ripon and South Stainley. Inspector Philip Corton said that Morga, who shares a house in the area with his long-term girlfriend, the singer Paula Jolie, would be released in time for the final stage of the event. The climax of the rally takes place in Harrogate tonight, where thousands of spectators are expected to converge on the town, and the Ripon Road will be closed from the junction of Springfield Avenue to the junction with Kings Road between 6 and 9 p.m.
And now it's this time of the evening where we go over to Matthew for the latest sports roundup.
Last night's football results. Bristol Rovers beat Derby County 2-0 with Rovers' leading scorer Malcolm Allison in fine form, scoring both goals in the closing 15 minutes at the end of a very tight game. Barnsley were held to a 1-1 draw by Cambridge despite several late chances. Newcastle beat Charlton 2-1 thanks mainly to a brilliant performance by their winger Lee, playing against the club that sold him only 2 months ago for £700,000. Birmingham simply couldn't get things together against Port Vale, who beat them by a remarkable 7-0. And finally, Sunderland beat Leicester 1-0, the only goal being scored after 2 minutes in what was an otherwise dull match.
Finally this evening, we cover the story of an animal abduction. West Yorkshire has been victim to a series of guinea pig nappings, as these family pets are being absconded and used for evil and even criminal ways. We sent our reporters to investigate the new disturbing crime phenomena.
It's a well-known fact that crime, both regional and national, have been steadily on the increase over the past few years. Car theft, burglaries, assault and joyriding are just a few of the many crimes being committed regularly. But today, Crime Track has discovered a new and altogether unsavoury practice that has yet to hit the headlines of our national press. Pig napping. And we're not talking about the filling of your favourite mid-morning sandwich either. Recently there has been a spate of incidents which involves thieves breaking into pets' cages and selectively taking female guinea pigs. Crime Track has decided to track down an expert opinion via a city centre pet shop. Have you any idea why these crimes are being committed?
I think it might be because it's surprising that guinea pigs are quite a very popular pet that people like to have.
Why should the thieves prefer female pigs only?
Because you can get loads of females. You only need just the one male, and they can be bred very quickly. They don't take the breed within a matter of weeks from when they've had the first lot.
Are certain breeds of pigs particularly valuable?
You find in pet shops you can get most up to a price of £10 for a guinea pig. If you sell them through, if you sell breeders, they'll probably pay a lot more for them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brown.
That's quite right. Thank you.
Here we are in a typical city suburb to talk to some victims of these petty crimes. So what exactly happened?
Well, I heard some noises in the morning, like, I thought it was milkman, and when he came down, like, both guinea pigs had gone, and I'm just left with the rabbit, and that's it.
And I woke up in the morning, it was gone.
We woke up in the morning and we thought it would just be a man, but when we went to feed her, she wasn't there.
The thefts seem to occur mostly in low light conditions, either in the morning or in the late afternoon. Previously, these acts were believed to be purely spur of the moment, but now with more and more frequent occurrences, that opinion is changing. This Crime Tracker simulation illustrates how a typical crime may be carried out. So there you have it. Whatever the motivations of these desperate criminals, there's one outstanding cry from the community. You can take our cars and you can have our videos, but please, can we have our guinea pigs back?
So finally this evening, it's time for the weather. Ruth.
And it's been pretty dull and overcast over the past few days, and this will continue throughout the week.
It's expected to be dull and windy, so wrap up warm.
Take your hats with you and your scarves.
Good night, punters.
Good night.